Legends and Super Legends, welcome to Veloharmony. To this ride, we're gonna try to hook up with Team RR just to keep the variety going. I don't know if there's gonna be a big turnout or not, but we'll get some clips for you all. I hope you'll get a chance to get some K's in. It's another hot day in Central Texas. So I'm wearing a very lightweight jersey here and going white, just to stay as cool as possible. So I hope you'll get a chance to get some K's in. I'm meeting Paul in about 2 minutes, and we're gonna head out into the woodlands to get some K's in. On this ride, I ended up leaving Northampton alone. Paul was running behind schedule, and I wanted to kind of take it easy to pick up the group. You can see that he ended up riding very hard to catch up with us at the parking lot, and he did. And we headed out on Fish Creek. The boys decided to go to the lake this week, and so we went out Fish Creek to Highway 105. We took Longmire Road to Highway 830 and cut through the neighborhood, stopped at the lake, and then took 1097 across the lake back towards Montgomery. But then we went north through the forest on Mount Pleasant Road. All of that's on film. And this part of it, we went into Dacus, took 1486 down to Mount Moriah Road. Paul didn't stop with us at the store. He continued. He went through Tri-Lakes. We took 1486 to Jackson Road. I stayed back with a new guy who was bonking, and that's why you see Greg Shot's ahead, and then we caught up with them, and then Greg Shot stayed behind with him. His name was Brian. You will see that in the clips. We'll introduce you to Brian. But Brian had not gone that long, that hard before, and he was just having challenges in the third hour. I didn't want him riding by himself. So I came back the long way, took Terramont after stopping at the park, and got a little over 163 kilometers, I believe. Yeah, 164.7. I think you will love the clips.
David, so I think you've seen McCaleb. It's been repaved and it's wide all the way out, and then we're going to stay on 105 all the way to...
We're discussing the routes.
Longmire to the lake, stop at that gas station at the bridge right there, and then come start going.
That's Mark here. He didn't end up finishing with us. A lot of people had challenges. Those who haven't been training consistently had challenges with the pace. So as soon as we're leaving here, you'll see Paul Ilonga. There he is. He just arrived. Good morning, man. I waited until about 6:20.
Yeah, I know, man. I just woke up, man.
Okay. He said he overslept. I had trouble getting on myself, so we started to talk about it. Yeah, you did good. I just got here. Well, I stopped to keep spinning because I didn't want to stand. Yeah. So you can see it's 7:06. Yeah, we're rolling out. I didn't want to ride hard to get here. Out there before. Yeah, I had trouble getting on myself. The alarm went off at 5. I tapped the snooze. Every 9 minutes that we go off, Melissa said, "You need to go."
Nice number, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure who came up with the snooze at 9 minutes. Why 9 minutes?
That's the very lightweight jersey. I really like the way it fits.
Yeah, he's complimenting me on my jersey and the way it fits. I was trying that one and I liked it, so I kept it.
I like the way it looks. But it works great in the summer. I wore it on Sunday last week for the first time.
So once again on this road, I'm on the road.
Okay.
His lap.
Yeah. He's probably going for KOM or something.
Yeah, we know.
Paul was telling me that he saw Fabian and some of the other guys.
Elementary school.
On Sunday, it turns out that the WCC group only had 3 riders. It was very small. I guess with the holiday or Father's Day or whatever, I guess people weren't riding. I don't, in our house, I don't make it a big deal. I'm sure
Yeah,
we
I
came
saw
up with
all the
the day.
reply.
But,
Because I just removed
every
it
day is
to mute
Father's
to see
Day,
what
every
they
day is
were
Mother's
doing.
Day. I
And
don't
saw
subscribe to this marketing stuff.
Gonna be a
Go to the
number
mall,
of
buy your
people
mom a gift, or buy your dad power tools. How the heck would I buy my dad power tools as a gift? That's not a gift. Nobody wants to do the yard that much the way you'll buy me a steel weed eater as a gift. Unless your dad's into that, I guess. But buy your dad something he enjoys. If he enjoys doing the yard, then great. But you ever notice how the commercials want to come up with what you should spend your money on. Like you need suggestions. Money doesn't go bad. So you don't know what if you're not sure what to buy, just keep it. You'll get the idea. So you see everybody darting in and out from the shoulder and so forth. I just stay on the road. Nothing's wrong with the shoulder here, but when you ride on the shoulder, you need to be even more vigilant because when cars pass by, the debris goes to the right, just the wind. So a lot of the debris goes on the shoulder. Here is not so much of a challenge, but further down, Mark once again has a flat because there's a construction going on further down the road. They're building new restaurants, a new parking lot has been put out there. So, you know, there's a lot of little stuff. And then we see pieces of cars that had some accidents. So right around here, I hand Paul the camera and somebody says flat right here. So they pull in there. I just go ahead and pass where they pull in. That's a parking lot that connects to Egypt Lane. They turn in there. Mark hit something. I ended up asking him later and he told me, yeah, it's something I hit. And look at the shoulder. There's a little bit of debris. You can't see them too well, but when you're riding there, you have to either unload the bike or just read the road. You can't hit everything. So those little strips behind me there are pieces of cars. So don't ride over things like those. They can cut your tire. This is 7 minutes later. That was a quick flat repair. So I guess that was focused this morning. So I went down the street, did a loop, we came in here. So now we're leaving the parking lot, going back the way I came in, and Egypt Lane is to our left. Paul and I shared a joke. That's what he's laughing at. You know, because this is Mark's third flat that we know about in 2 weeks. That gets expensive. No one should be having flats that frequently. If you are, and you're not having an issue with your mechanical, like the wheel, or maybe something's puncturing your spokes, like the nipples and the wheel and so forth, that means you need to start paying attention to how you're riding on the road. You can't be hitting everything on the road. See those reflectors over there? Don't hit them. You can get pinch flats if you hit them just right, or rocks or whatever. Mark didn't even know what he hit. So Mark needs to work on his reading the road, we call it. That's just too frequent. Most riders may have a flat once every 9 to 18 months, you know, because if you read the road, you lessen your chances. And if you change your tires before they're bald, you lessen your chances. And if you check your tires for things that might be stuck in there that hasn't caused a flat yet. We've talked about it on this channel. It's in the maintenance section. I made a video about it. All of that plays a factor. It just minimizes. You're not supposed to be having a flat every couple of weeks. That's not the norm. So Mark's way ahead of the average. And I told him, I said, man, you have a lot of flats. So I ended up asking him whether there was something wrong with his wheels. And then he said, no, it's something I hit. I said, oh, okay. You'll see Victor has a flat later in the ride as well. When we get to 105, his tire got cut by something. The thing about these highways, especially the ones, busy highways with a shoulder, the cars push more debris on the shoulder. So if you don't stay near the white line within a foot or so, you're exposed to that. And when that's the case, you got to lighten the load. You got to stand more. So we go across 1488 here. And they're heading to the lake. What I did this morning is I edited this for time. The content is the same, to kind of move us along onto the open road. Most of you have seen our warm-up route. Since we're heading to the lake, we're going to take Fish Creek.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was raining.
I don't even know what he's doing.
I'm going to show you guys in a few kilometers, guys and girls, this is Michael on the left with the orange socks. What Michael likes to do is he does an elaborate series of moves that puts him at the back all the time, even when he's moved up in the group. That is not necessary, and sometimes some of the things he does upsets the other road users other than cyclists. And you guys will see a good, he does it all the time, and you'll see a good example. We finally were able to catch a good one on film. Because one day we were riding with Michael, and we kept hearing cars, Paul and I, just the two of us plus Michael, on Highway 149. And we kept hearing cars blowing at us. And, you know, and that never happens. So I was like, you know, I even put my hand out once, with, you know, my hands up in the air to the motorist, like, what? I didn't know until a few minutes later that he was in front of, Michael was in front of me, and I saw him. What he was doing is he was drifting from where you see Paul H is. He was drifting into the main lane without looking back. And it was startling the drivers as they would come up, because it wasn't a highway like this that had 2 lanes there. There was only 1 lane on each side plus shoulders. And we were on the shoulder, and he kept leaving the shoulder and going into the main lane without checking. So he was startling the drivers. And you will see an example of what he does that is not necessary and so forth. And I just want to show it to let you know that don't do that. It's not necessary. If you want to move back in a group, just drift back in a group. You don't need to go all the way over like you would see him do. And you can see I'm in the main lane. If you're already there, you're not going to startle the driver. But if you're on the shoulder like Paul H and you decide you want to come over, it is your responsibility to look behind and let them know if somebody's there. Don't just jump out and take a chance. I mean, that's like tossing a coin. Don't do that. You ride often, you need to be even more careful. I don't take any chances with my safety when I ride. There's no point to it. So just be aware of that. If the drivers know what you're doing, then you're better off. I mean, you know it. Even when you're driving your car, if you don't signal and do stuff, I'm sure from time to time somebody blows at you because they don't know what you're doing. You're startling people. You might even shock a pedestrian if you don't signal. They don't know you're turning and they want to cross. All of that's important. We call it trafficating in other parts of the world. It's important to trafficate to let the other road users know your intent. I decided to put my light on steady today. I'm not really sure why. Usually I rode with it solo blinking, and once I got there I put it on steady. I really like that light. That's the Hotshot, Cycle Light Hotshot 200. The steady mode is easier on the eyes of the riders in the group. So we're moving this morning. We've got a bit of a tailwind, tail headwind. The wind's coming from the back and from the right. So I stay a little to the left of Paul H. When the shoulder is narrow like this, and the road's quiet, it's early in the morning, I try to stay to the left so I can see around the other riders. I don't want to just follow a long line and not be able to see around the rider I'm following. Those are reflectors I'm pointing out to Paul. Paul Ilunga is behind me. We're going to eventually use the shoulder. The road is narrowing here from 2 to 1 lane. So we slide over here. There's just a traffic control design they put on the road. There's a lot of debris. Those tires that rip off of vehicles, don't run over them. They've got little shreds of wires that are in there. They can cause a flat. Even if it's not an instant flat, it might stick in your tire. They end up being small little shreds of metal that are like hair, like human hair, but they can work their way in and give you a slow puncture. So I avoid those. Don't roll over those pieces of tire. We see a lot of that in the summer, and I think they come off of cars. I've seen them literally peel off of an 18-wheeler that had bald tires, and on a hot day, I guess the temperature was too much, and then they literally peel off. That's why you see them on the side of the road. They don't always cause a flat. They just peel off. You just lose all your tread. But we see them quite a bit. So we're really just getting into the ride. And because we went to that downhill, my heart rate really dropped. When you're fit and you're going downhill, you have to work harder to keep the effort up, because it's really almost like you're saving energy, but still you got some what I call free speed. The road is leveled off a bit here. In a little while, I think this is where Michael pulls his thing. Yeah. So what? Right here, I want you to keep your eye on Michael. You see, he's in front of Paul H. and Brian. That's the new guy, Brian. Michael's gonna go through this elaborate, what I call ruse. Watch him. He's on the white line itself. This lane is wide enough. Now watch him drink and then drift into the other lane right there. I mean, why is that necessary? So in my mind, like, why is he in that lane? And then a car shows up. So now he swings back.
Is this lane not wide enough, Michael?
Look at where Mark is. Look at all the dirt. Why is he by the edge of the road? That's why he has all these flats. This is what I'm talking about. And he never got up. He rode through all of that, seated. I wanted to point those things out so you all can be aware of that. You increase your chances of flats when you ride through a lot of debris like that. Look at this lane. You have access to the whole lane. There's no reason for what Mark was doing. And then Michael did all of that so he could get behind two riders. He does that a lot. What we call riding backwards. You don't need to do that. If you don't want to be at the front, when someone pulls off the front, let a gap open so they can take it and tell them go ahead. Most experienced riders, you don't have to tell them to go ahead. They just slip in there because they want to get back in shelter. Just remember that. You don't need to do all of that to be at the back. You want to be at the back? That's fine. He didn't come behind us because I left a huge gap and he didn't want to be way back, because the problem is if you get behind somebody like me, or maybe let's say Jerry, and there's a huge gap, when the group starts to go, we're going to go full gas to close it up. So you end up working so hard. And that's why Michael did not get behind us. At this point, we really haven't started riding, and Paul and I were talking. So that's why I didn't want to get in the line per se. But I wanted to point that out so you all will be aware of that. I just didn't like the fact that he got in that left lane without signaling. The car behind him was slowing down for the light already. But you shouldn't do that. We have the whole right lane. We weren't turning left. So he had no reason to go over there. And I feel personally it's inconsiderate what he did. You need to be aware that other people are using the road too, just like you. And he does that often, just saying not to care about it. So he gets drivers blowing at him on a regular basis. You know. And you shouldn't. Every time somebody blows at you because of something you've done, you need to correct that. Like I've said earlier, a horn is a warning. And maybe somebody's using it in anger or whatever, but your goal should be to not do anything that requires another road user to blow a horn at you. And with Michael, my thing is you heard what I said. I was being sarcastic, but we've said and done whatever. He has not corrected that. So it's almost like he doesn't care. And I just don't want to see him get hit on a ride that I'm on. It just ruins everything for everybody. You guys know that. Nobody wants to see another person get hurt. So that's why I make the comment. I make comments to him so he can be aware. That's not cool. I don't want him to be uncomfortable coming to the group ride, but you need to be aware that you don't want to make all of us look bad or endanger yourself or others. I don't know what they're doing here. It looks like they're adding a right lane there for this shopping center. They're going to give them a little turn lane there. That's what that is. But then on the left, they've opened up the median like they're adding left turn lanes on the left. So we got these barrels that have sprung up. There's a lot of growth. When you see that, there's a lot of growth with these shopping centers, and that means there's more cars that will be pulling out of those shopping centers. So they're trying to keep the traffic moving smoothly by adding what they're doing on the sides here. There's a bit of a lip over there. I hope they will level that out because it's way above the road. I mean, it doesn't affect the road users, but I'm sure they've got a reason for doing it that way. That might be okay. It might force the people coming out into traffic to slow down. So yeah, with the growth north up here, that's what they're adding, turn lanes into shopping centers. That's why we got those barrels. The whole time we went through those barrels, we made sure we used the lane to keep the cars behind us. It wasn't wide enough for them to pass. Now they're passing. In a little while, this road's going to go up. We've got anywhere between 1 to 3% between here and Highway 105. And we've got that overpass, which is like 3.5% at its highest, and it's long. So if you want to be strong on hills, if you go out and ride the hills in your area, when you plan your warm up to where you warmed up. We passed some cyclists here. There's a couple of ladies on the right. As we go by, you will hear Victor make a comment. I don't remember what he said. Right there. I don't know what he said, but Paul laughed. I'm keeping my cadence high because it's early in the ride, and we've got a lot of repeat hills coming in. What I was saying earlier was you don't need to ride mountains. Randy and Mark are both pulling out of the line and they're drifting to the back. This is what I'm talking about. You can do this. There's nothing wrong with that. You see, they didn't do anything crazy. They're right next to us. That's a drift by. That's a good distance there. You don't need to be by the white line on the left. They're drifting back to get in the back of the group because they didn't like the pace and where they were in the group. Then you want to get to the front and then do that. That's okay to change your position in the group, but that's how you do it. You don't need to do anything elaborate. There's a lot of debris that I'm pointing to. I avoid those little rocks that gather at the corners. That's how you avoid getting a flat. I'm riding my Victoria Evo tires on these wheels this week, and so I even more pay attention to riding on smooth pavement. The Evos are not very tough tires, but they're fast tires. And I have latex tubes mated with them. They ride really well. Victor here coming up. Victor stays in the back because he's on his aero bars. And now he's rolling to the front. He likes to do the hills really hard. So he's rolling it from. Max was the one pulling, and Max has pulled off. Max also rides with the WCC group that we visit from time to time. And so does Doug Schott as well. So riders alternate between the group depending on their mood. And we try to do the same. We watch the postings of this group, and this week, Paulie Longa mentioned it when we were leaving the parking lot. This week there were a lot of people coming to ride. A lot of times the holidays that come around, people travel and whatever. So that's what I was saying. When we got on Sunday, we got to Taco Corner. I rode with this group again, and WCC had pretty much a no-show. There were only 3 riders. They were asking us to go back with them, but we were going further out than they wanted to go because on Sunday some of them don't go that far. I try to get a lot of Ks in on the weekends. During the week, I don't have the time. So now Michael has made it near the front. He doesn't like to be near the front, and that's okay. Even if you don't want to be near the front, just stay in shelter while you're there. And then when people pull off, you can leave a gap if you choose to. So he should have probably just been leaving a gap, but I think with these hills, nobody wanted to get in front of him. See, he's drifting to the left to catch the wind. That slows you down. You don't need to use the brakes. I don't use my brakes. I might tap them lightly from time to time if I don't have room to slide over, but I don't use my brakes. Victor is staying on the left there because he's on the aero bars. He doesn't do it in the pace line, and that's the proper thing to do because when you're on those bars, you have no control on your brakes and your handling is compromised. That position is designed for going straight, not for making turns. So most groups will make it clear that you should not be on your aero bars when you're in the pace line. Either at the front, it's okay, or the back. I move over, I check before I move over to catch more wind. We're descending here. always tend to descend faster than a lot of these guys, especially like a guy like Michael who's very light. Doug pointed to that car so that the driver knew we were coming because he looked like he was not slowing down. He ended up slowing down, but Doug shot is at the front pulling, and I saw him put his hand out to get the driver's attention. Sometimes it's good to do that. Make sure they see you. Now you can see Michael's working hard. Notice every time he's working hard, he gets in a drop and he arches his back. That tells me something's off with that fit. You shouldn't have to do something different because you're putting force in the pedal. You notice I'm standing. I'm using a larger gear and I'm standing. Because it just feels good for me. That's the rhythm I want to keep at this point. I stood a little bit, then I sat down, and now I'm soft pedaling. There comes the overpass. And right here in my mind, I know that Doug pulls really hard. Doug's one of the guys that are going to Maryland to do the, what they call it, the diabolical double. So he's been doing a lot of training, and he's got his gray shoes worked out to go right up there. So he pulls really hard on the uphills. He downshifts and he spins. You see the guy in front of Michael, look at his cadence. That's too low. Because that for a long ride, you're going to burn all your glycogen. He ended up having problems bonking. Right here, I kick up to go to polish to push him because he's struggling. Doug's pulling away. Right there, that's all he needed. That was one of the steepest pitches there. I didn't change my position. I just went up to push him because he was really struggling at Doug. You can see Doug pulled away. I wanted to keep everybody together. So Paulie Lunga's on my wheel. We ended up getting in front of Michael. And so we're here now. Check for traffic. We're going hard here. I was asking them if we were turning because they said that we're going to go to the lake. Usually we turn left here under the freeway and take 2854 east. This time around they're going to take this road, which Fish Creek becomes McCaleb Road. And this is the road we're going to take down to the lake. So as we go through here, you will see shortly, no one wants to pull. That hill took a lot of effort. We're rolling on McCaleb Road. The reason I like group rides for the most part is that the group can cover more ground, but I don't like to be stopping and going. If we're gonna go, let's just keep the pace and have what I call group pace, and then people can do whatever else they want. This way you spend more time making progress as opposed to waiting around. So right here, everybody's kind of soft pedaling. Victor had gone to the front on that climb, and they're not moving. Look at them. The power is not on. We're all together. We decided to use the new pavement. It doesn't go all the way to 105, but they're still working on the road. It's going to be nice when they're done. I am hoping that the lanes are wide enough, and they hopefully leave some shoulders here. It'll be a good road to use. I just will go ahead and roll through. Everybody's just kind of loitering, I guess I would use that word, just hanging around. And so Doug's been pulling, so he's pulled off. And I just go ahead and pull through, keeping the pace the same. So the main lanes are on the left there. This is just new pavement that's not open yet for road traffic, but we can get through the cones. You will see all the heavy equipment on the right there. This is actually closed. So when you're riding like this on these kind of roads, be very careful. Make sure nobody's working. None of the construction guys are there. You know, all their vehicles are sitting to the right. And I'm looking ahead to make sure there are no surprises in the pavement, because the road is not open. And it could be that it's not fully formed, or they've left some holes or something. That's the reason those cones are there, to keep cars out of it. So just because the bikes can get through, don't take for granted that the road is perfect, because they're not done. So all I'm doing is looking down the road, just keeping us moving. It's gonna be beautiful. Look at that nice sweeping little climb. Just a slight little bump. You don't even need to downshift or something like that. So right here, you see Brian on the right there. Look at a heavy gear. And when you see that, you kind of know, okay, unless we're taking it easy, you're burning a lot of your what I call premium fuel, your glycogen. That's not very efficient. Mileage goes with him, but I know that's not sustainable. That's how Mo refers to certain moves people make. You know, it's not sustainable. I just continue doing what I was doing. And Paulie Lunga stays with me because he knows we can do this all day. That's the kind of riding we do. He calls it the Veloharmony riding. You can see we're already back to them. I don't know why Brian made that move, but all of that catches up with him later. In the third hour, he's really struggling and low on fuel. So I ended up giving him a gel, one of my gels, because he only had a bar. And by the time you eat a bar for it to get in your system, get digested while you're riding, you're already behind. You don't have time to ride. So I told him to take the gel. And I stayed back with him off until Jackson Road, until we got to the Magnolia. Didn't want him riding by himself. When somebody's struggling, it's not good for them to be alone, especially in the heat. Anything can happen. I continue the same pace. I don't change anything because they're out there. I just let them do what they're doing. This is the group pace. Road goes up here. It says 1%. I think it was like maybe 2.5. So Victor comes by again. I don't change what I'm doing. I just continue to ride. That's max. I think once Doug's shot comes around, we're going downhill now, so my pace picks up. I just kept the pressure the same. So the speed picks up here. We're going down here. Yeah, -1. If you look at the grade above the cyclist and the metrics there. I have not changed my effort at all. That's what you should do. Let people have their fun. Just make sure you know what you're doing for the hours you're going to be out there. There's always, they call it a tax to pay if you overexert yourself beyond what you've prepared for. Especially when you do grand fondos and other things, you have to be conservative. The road ends here. That's why you saw me point. So now we're going to use the main lanes. The pavement ends. They're going to see what that sign is. There's a high equipment there. They're building new pavement there. And it ends in dirt. So it's going to be like a divided highway per se. I don't know how they're going to finally lay it out. It's going to be nice. They're going to have to move a lot of these. So you see the structure here is going to be smack dab in the middle. Let them build around it. And that's probably what they're planning on doing. They will be sitting in the median. You can see all the little dirt here. These are going to be turnarounds. So it'll be like a boulevard with island in the middle, I suspect. This is Highway 105. So we get here, and then I noticed Victor turns right and just unclips. He didn't say anything to us. I just kept going. Right there. He just stopped. He unclipped. I just keep going. I don't know why he's stopping. He didn't say anything. I look back at traffic, use the main lane, and go. These are the kind of highways you need to stay near the white line as much as possible because all the debris gets further out on the shoulder. You want to be where I am, within a foot or so. That's Brian there. And I just ride up to him. And then in a short while, Victor comes to ask us why we're not waiting for Mark and Randy. I didn't even know they were off the back. We weren't riding that hard. So I kept my same effort, and that's what just pulled me to the front. Ryan and them done playing, and they're gonna sit back, and we just resume riding. While Victor would come to the front. I mean, it took a lot of work for him to come up to tell us that. But he says, why are we not waiting for Mark and Randy? Well, nobody told us they were off the bat. So, the shoulder here is relatively clean, but there are spots where you get a lot of little rocks and other things. Everything just kind of drifts to the right as the cars go by. It's somewhere here. The ball is on my left and the wind is coming from the right. So I make sure I put all debris to my right. Right here. So Victor says the reason we're not stopping for Mark and Randy, I didn't know that it was off the back, so we slow down. We slow down here because I didn't know they were off the back. He didn't say anything. He just pulled over and stopped. I don't know what was going on. So we pulled into this driveway here. Whenever I stop on the side of a road, I'm very uncomfortable just standing there. I like to get off the road completely. And I'm sure some of you are probably wondering what's the, let's say the etiquette is here.
I didn't hear him though. Did you call it? Did you hear him?
You hear what Paul Yolonga said. He asked, did he call it? So first of all, he never communicated to us why he was unclipping at that corner. And then he's one of the instigators of increasing the pace on McCaleb Road. You will hear me tell Doug. So I'm telling Doug, I say he's going off the front, now he's worried about those guys. Well, remember those guys have pulled out of the pace line on Fish Creek. So there's certain things going on. They can't handle the pace. Or they've decided to go slower today. Why should we wait? Here comes Randy, and then he's gonna tell us, he'd show us move forward or whatever. So he's going. So here's the thing, if there are people in your group, like the situation we have here, that are either unable to or unwilling to hold the pace, then you form a group B. And they stay with group B and you guys regroup at your regular stop, whatever store you normally stop at. You shouldn't have to slow down to wait for people who are unwilling or unable or are not even trying to hold the pace. Because you've done the work, you're pushing on, you came to get a workout, you're entitled to that. And so I think that the proper thing would be for Randy and Mark and maybe Victor or whoever to ride together, knowing that we're going to meet at the lake. And then we just meet there. That's the way you do it. That's what I believe. It's not a cycling rule, it's just common courtesy that everybody has their fun. Now you're probably wondering why it took us 3 minutes if we're just waiting for Randy and Mark, and you saw when Randy showed up. It took 3 minutes because Mark apparently, after repairing that flat, did not air up the tire to where he wanted it to be, so they were messing around with his tire. So we was standing there for 3 minutes while he and Victor fiddled with that. And that happens in a group from time to time, but once again, some riders that are on the schedule will just keep rolling. You know, not everybody's going to wait for you. So you need to make sure your bike is in good condition. Flats cannot be avoided at times, and that's fine, that's understandable. But don't expect everybody to wait. I mean, I've been on rides where I had a flat and the group just kept going. There are some groups that just do that. So don't rely on that. Just make sure that you read the road so you can get your workout in. You don't come out of the mess with the bike. You can see all the debris, the little specks on the road. Those are the things you need to avoid. Don't make it a thing of chance. Increase your chances of not having a flat. So that's Mark and Randy up here. And it ended up, in a little while, you will see Victor has a flat because this road, this shoulder has a lot of little debris. He ended up with a cut on his tire. But what I noticed was that the tire was kind of worn down. You know, you can't let your tread get too low, you know. It'll happen to a new tire, so it's not because of that, but you just increase the chances of not having to deal with mechanicals. So this is where I'm asking Mark whether he's having problems with his wheels, because we waited for 3 minutes for them to get air in the tire. I thought he was having a recurring flat, and he said no, they just didn't put enough air in there. And that's what Paul is asking him, if he has a spare, because I think he probably only had one tube. I carry 2 tubes and I have patch kit in my essentials kit. When you're going further out, carry at least 2 tubes. 2 tubes is good insurance. And then if you read the road, you're not gonna, you know, increase the likelihood. But don't just carry one and depend on the group. You know, because it's an inconvenience to the other riders as well. They're not carrying tubes for you. They're carrying tubes for them. Everybody should come prepared to fix their own mechanical issues, flats and so forth. That's the requirement. That's just common courtesy. Don't come to the group thinking that other people will give you tubes, because if somebody's going further out, they're not going to give you their tube if they're having a long day. I don't give anybody my tubes on these rides because I'm doing 6 hours. I need to have both of them. So make sure you're prepared. I have a tube in my radio pocket. That's why you see the middle of my jersey is pushed up. There's a tube in there. That's an extra tube. And I've got my phone in my other radio pocket on my shorts. And the reason I put them there is because I carry the gimbal in the middle pocket when we're not filming. So you need to be prepared. It's your responsibility. Don't depend on other people. Right here, this road has a lot of debris. I guess I'm out of camera, but I spend a lot of time out of the saddle for that purpose. This is a little bridge here, and the debris from the cars on the bridges have nowhere to go. So they just bounce right back on the shoulder. And even though they're little rocks, I stand. Some of those are sharp and they can cut your tire. So as we went over that bridge, I was not seated. And you will see that something cuts Victor's tires. There's nothing you can do about that. It's gonna happen. It happens. All you can do is read the road as best as possible. But what ended up happening was he spent a lot of time trying to get air back in the replacement because for some reason his valve extender, he was riding Zip 808s, and the valve extender was not allowing his pump to get air in there. And those are the things you're supposed to test at home. So it was just one of those things. So we ended up putting some air in there. I ended up helping him out. Right here, I hear the tire pop. He's riding latex, so it was loud. So Paul calls out to those guys that there's a flat, and we're near a road here called Sap Road. So they turn there, and I turn there, but I do a U-turn and go back. This is a road we've ridden on before. I just go there to do a U-turn and use the shoulder and go back to where they are. They've stopped on the side of the road.
Good news is, Randy, it's not me.
Mark says the good news, Randy, is not me. So he's stopped twice to mess with his tire, and his tire is fine now. That's what I'm telling Paul. That's why I was standing. Little rocks and stuff like that, if you see that, they catch your tire on the side just right, they can cut it. So he's got a cut in there. He ended up needing a boot to put in there. We have one of the Park Tool boots. So I'm riding back to them. They're standing right there. I went ahead, of course, and edited for time because we spent a few minutes with him getting the tire on there. He got the wheel back all together. The new tube. He's using latex, and he had a latex replacement. I don't carry latex replacements on the road. I just put a butyl tube when it happens, and then I'll switch it out when I get home. The latex, I put a little bit of powder on it because it's stickier when I'm home, so I don't carry them as replacements. I roll up to them just to see what's going on. He had a cut, so we got that sorted. I went ahead and edited for time. He already has the wheel off. And I'm telling you, that's why I was standing, all those little stones. But you know, Victor was on his aero bars, so I guess he couldn't stand.
Yeah, it's got a cut. Okay.
So we're rolling out of a gas station here because what we did is we put enough air in Victor's tire in the front, and we got to the gas station, but then he just could not get it aired up more. He just needs to check his valve extender on the 808 wheels. You need a valve extender on 808. They don't make any tubes that have a valve long enough to protrude on those very deep dish time trial wheels. So at this point, he said, yeah, I'm just going to ride with whatever pressure's in there. Probably 65, 75 PSI, something like that. It was okay, but a little soft. Since it was the front, not that big a deal. So we decided here that we were ready to ride. You know, we had enough stops. This can happen in any group. The key is that you get the problem resolved quickly and get moving again. Because that's why we get up early. We get up early to get the ride done, not to wait till the day gets hot. At this point, I believe we're on Longmire Road here, headed north to Highway FM 830, heading towards the lake. So I'm sitting behind Max. I have the camera here. I'm not sure when I gave it back to Paul, but I will in a while. So we had basically 3 stops in the first part of this ride. One for a flat, one because people fell off. There's Mark up there. And then Mark used that opportunity to put more air in the rear tire he had repaired because they didn't put enough in there. And it's just kind of, after a while, people are like, okay, it's time to ride. So we start to roll here. We're on Longmire Road. We're headed towards Highway 830. It's a bit of a roundabout way out here. Mark's at the front pulling. After finding out the challenges that he had later in the ride, he probably shouldn't have been pulling. You know, sometimes you're feeling good early and then later on you don't. So that can happen. But you really have to pay attention to how you're going. Don't go pull because you feel like you're obligated. You're not. You don't have to pull. Other people can pull. You can sit in. That's one of the benefits of being in a group. I edited for time here. Mark pulled out of the front. He's drifting to the back. And Doug Shot takes over. He was there for quite a while. I went ahead and edited for time as well. We're heading north. This is like where we had the highest elevation. I was very surprised when I looked at the relief map. I think it says 298, so like 324 meters up in this area here going towards the lake. We ended up climbing probably 700 and something meters the whole ride. You can see if you look down there, look at the road, it's going up in the distance. The entire area here, Conroe, is up and down. This is slightly downhill here. Then we'll level off and we'll start going up. So all the starting and stopping, it really just, it throws off your rhythm somewhat because, you know, you ride to the ride, you're nice and warm. When you stop for a while, your body kind of cools off and sometimes it's hard to get going again right away. So you gotta let yourself ease back into the effort. If other people are pulling hard after a stop, just sit in until you're ready. Because everybody's different. Right here we're climbing. It's anywhere between 1% and 3%. You can see, if you look at the view, it's up. We're going up. This is where we had our highest ascent on the entire ride. I didn't find that out until I was reviewing the map on the route. One of the benefits of going with a group, I would never have found this road. I have no reason to ride out here. It's a bit out of the way unless you're going to the lake in this direction. So coming out with these guys, I already know this route. We've been out here a few times, but it's because of this Team RR group that I've learned the route. That's one of the benefits, one of the many benefits of riding with a group. You can store your ride, especially if you have one of these head units that we carry that records the route and gives you a map. You can even make it into a course if you want to come back on your own. But I always remember where I go on a bicycle. I mean, we're not traveling at the speed you travel at in cars. And so it's easier. You feel more connected to the environment on a bicycle. So I find it very easy to remember where I've been on the bicycle. So I ended up giving directions on this route because Mark and Victor stayed behind. So Doug's been out here, but he didn't remember all the turns. It was just nice to get rolling again. As you can see, even though they pointed those out, I didn't need it. I was already pointing out the obstacle for the people behind me before they did, because I always stay off slightly to one side. What the camera is seeing is what I can see. So I see the imperfections in the road before we get there. This really saves your wheels, and it really can prevent surprise crashes. You know, if you hit something and you're not expecting it, and your bars are not being held tightly, it can bounce out of your hands. So it's good to know what's coming. You get that when you ride solo because nothing is in front of you. In the group, I'm even more vigilant. See where I am? I'm just staying to the left of Max. It doubles with the fact that the wind is slightly from our right and in our face. Just a little bit. We have a southeasterly flow right now. So a little bit from the side now. We're kind of going north-northeast. Now we're going more north. So now the wind's behind us more. But there's always something. You always got to look for that. So I just stayed to the left. Look for the cleanest pavement. We stopped here. This is a stop just for this side. And I told Max we were going straight. He had already asked. And right here we check and we notice Mark and Victor are not there. And that's what I was talking about. It's like, okay, he just took a pull a few kilometers back. Now he's off the back. So maybe he shouldn't have taken a pull. So just stay with the group so we don't have to wait. You know, we just waiting and waiting. It's like after a while it gets old and you lose people. So Mark and Victor are off the back. What's his name's waving. I gave the camera to Paul and he flipped it behind. Doug is waving. So we're kind of soft pedaling here to see if they show up soon. So don't do that. Don't take pulls and then you fall off the pace. Let the group know what your plan is. If you're not going to ride with them or they're going too fast, maybe you and a few other riders can form Group B and you guys just keep plowing along and you'll meet at the stop, as opposed to people not knowing what you're doing. And like right here we're waiting and we're not sure if they want to ride at this pace or whatever. They should have just said something so we could just keep going. So in a few kilometers we just decide we're going to ride because they never really catch back up until we get to Highway 830. So we use this opportunity, kind of soft pedal to give them a chance and see. I think shortly we're going to be turning. Yeah, I tell Max, you know, that we're turning right. Somebody called a right turn. This is another little shortcut that will take us to the main. There's a climb on Long Mile Road. We kind of did a roundabout there. We're cutting through a neighborhood. It's a quiet road. And we're not really riding here. We're just kind of rolling along. We still don't see Mark and Victor. They're the two that's off the bat. So Max and I are just chatting. Max usually rides with Mo's group. You know, we visit WCC from time to time. And so we're just chatting and shooting the breeze. You get this. This is fine. I don't mind this at all. At least you're moving. And we drop the power so they can catch up. So if you look at my jersey, you see the middle has like a little bump. That's my tube and my phone. They're in 2 radio pockets side by side. The Rafa shorts have radio pockets. I use that, but it's perfect. We put them in the back of the bib shorts. So it's clear. I let everybody know it's clear. And we turn and we're deciding whether we're gonna wait or whether we're gonna ride. And in a little while, Doug Shot makes the decision for us by just riding up and riding off the front, so we end up riding with him. So you see, even though my pockets are loaded, my jersey does not move. That's how you want your jersey. The waist needs to fit you. So when you're buying your kit, check the waist of the size you're getting and get one that's very close to you. It's never going to be super perfect because it's not a custom jersey, but get the sizing. It matters. And it's not just the chest. If the waist is too loose, when you put stuff in the pocket, it will swing around. And it's not a lot of fun carrying stuff like that. So they're still not bad. And Doug's looking behind and he's a bit impatient. He wants to ride. We all do. And so they really should have told us what their plans were. This road's going up here. It says 1%, it's a little more than that. I tapped myself to let Paul know we're riding here, because I hear him talking and I wanted to let him know these guys are putting the power down. He gets it, so he rides up to me, because sometimes just a bit of hesitation can lead into a big chase that you have to do. I don't see how people can ride, listen to music, and do whatever unless you're just doing some steady rides. Cycling requires a lot of attention, and that's why I don't find it boring. There's a lot to pay attention to besides just the workout itself. Everything else you're interacting with on the road: deer, squirrels, dogs, potholes, cars, everything. So I never take any headphones or anything with me. I have my phone with me. If I need to make a call for any reason, I have that. I'll take a picture. That's the reason I take it. I put it away and I just ride. I'm sitting on Max's wheel and to see when he's gonna decide to ride up the Doug. This road is slightly up, so Doug was trying to get his workout by riding the hills hard. And like I said earlier, that's the whole point of going out to the hills. We're riding hard here. So we ride up the Doug's wheel and sit on him for a while. So if you have people in your group that are not holding the pace or whatever their reasoning is, just let them know. Let's regroup at so and so, and that's okay. As long as you guys communicate and you don't have to wonder if they're okay. But don't feel like you have to go slower for other people. You don't. Set up different groups within the group. You don't have to think about it. People just need to gravitate. You know, when people fall off the pace in an open group, they just end up riding with a group that has a pace they can hold. And then you'll have little groups all over the road. That's okay. And then everybody meets at the official stop. Check for traffic here. We're going to be going left. I'll let them know already because Doug didn't remember the turn. We stop at this light, and the light is long enough to allow Mark and Victor to come within view. And you'll see that even though they're within view, they get close to us. I mean, they're right there within a car length. We turn and Doug is waiting for them, but they don't really ride up to us. So their actions indicate they don't want to ride at our pace. And I told Doug, let's ride. So right here, Paul's flipped the camera around. I sped it up because the light was long. This is Highway 830, FM 830. If you stay on this highway and go west where we're going and you don't turn, you end up hitting the lake. It dead ends into the lake. We end up going through the neighborhood to get to a particular landing, a shell station at the lake, like a boathouse almost. So Doug's looking back because he sees them. We saw them. They were right at the turn with us. And he's hoping they're going to just get in the pace line so we can go, but they're not. They're keeping their gap. And after a while, I tell them, let's ride. You see Doug look back again to see what they're doing. And they're there, but they don't want to get in the line. So we just decide we're going to go ahead and ride. And I told him, I said, yeah, they can meet us at the stop. Which is what ends up happening. We're ready to ride. So even with all the stops, the group is still pretty much faster than one rider. I mean, unless you really give it the stick. And then with the group, you can save your energy by resting in the draft while going at a faster speed than you would necessarily be doing on your own at the same effort. A slight descent here. If you look in the distance, then it goes up. We look for cars. I move out because I'm descending really fast behind Max and I don't want to hit my brakes. And I'm not even pedaling and I pass Max. And once he gets back in front of me, then I just slip behind him to get the draft. But whenever you're moving out in the main lanes from the shoulder, it is your responsibility. I cannot stress that enough. You must check. And if it's not safe, you stay where you are. It makes cycling so simple when you just do that. Don't ever assume. Same thing when you drive your car. Ride your bike like you drive your car. And if you're an excellent driver, then you'll be an excellent safe cyclist. Don't take chances. Your vehicle on the bicycle is very vulnerable. The other road users appreciate cyclists that signal their intention because there's quite a few of people that ride bicycles that I don't necessarily consider to be cyclists. If you know my meaning or you get my drift, they just ride bikes and they're reckless. They give all of us a bad name because drivers expect us to do crazy things. And they're pleasantly surprised when you follow the rules, the traffic rules. And some of them go out of their way to tell you to go and all of that, you know, and that's all nice, but it's like, you know, all of us should ride safely. We don't need to be licensed by anybody to do what makes sense. It's a lot of gravel that Max was pointing out. The road goes up in the distance. I think it will go up more. Max takes over. Right here is flat. Paul is spinning the camera around because this road is very close to like what we call chip seal. So it bounces a lot. It's beating up the camera. So the gimbal is having trouble keeping the picture steady. It's trying to adjust. When you have a lot of vibration, the gimbal continually tries to move the camera to where it's trying to frame the shot. And if there's a lot of bouncing and it goes outside the ability of the calibration, because it's calibrated by weight, and basically it increases the weight to where it ends up failing. You'll see in a little while. I took the music out so you can see the exchange. We're riding at speed, we're at effort. And Paul rides up to me after the turn to hand me the gimbal to see if I can help him get it sorted. What I do in those cases, I just manually see if he's trying to get it to straighten out. Because when it's filming like that, even though you're seeing a good shot, the camera is at an angle right there now. It starts to film the road. I left this in because some of the viewers have said they like to see the gear that we ride. I'm probably in a 53, 23, or 19, something like that. We turn the corner here, and the gimbal is it's exceeded its calibration.
Check this and see what.
So Paul rides up to me and hands it to me. It does not affect our riding. We're still riding. I take the gimbal and I just manually straighten the camera and flip it around, and boom, it levels back out. It helps it. And so I ride back up to him. I mean, this is hard because this road is going slightly up. It might say 0 is like 0.7. This is a grade. I ride back to him and I hand it to him. And get back behind Max without breaking stride. That's why we train, so you're not dying when you're in the group at pace. And if you are with a particular group to where you dying when you're in the group, that group is fast for you, then you use that as a goal and you keep working, and you will get to where you can be comfortable in the group and then take your cuts when they're done. That's the whole point. Whether you're a racer or just a tourist, doesn't matter. If you aim to ride with different, a lot of guys will start with like the C group and then start riding with the B group and then strive for the A group. That's how you do it. You do the faster groups for a little while, you drift back to the smaller group. And you can do that all within one ride if the group is big enough. Once it splits, find a group you can stay with. I tell Max with turning, there's a car coming, so we wait to execute the turn. We let everybody know that we're stopping the people behind us. So when we turn, Max has a gel in his mouth. He's hanging onto the gel with his teeth, and I see that, and so I go ahead and ride to the front so he can eat. I look for Paul. Paul comes along. When I used to compete, that's how we rode together with our team. We weren't attacking each other all the time. We'd ride, and then we had areas where we want to sprint up a climb or whatever, and then you just sprint up the climb, and whoever can sprint the fastest will be up the climb first, or it didn't matter who got there first as long as you got your effort in. Because if you're at the back of the group, you probably won't win the sprint. But it doesn't matter, because as long as you're going fast at the back, when you start out together with somebody, you will still get there. So the way we did it was we rode together and shared the work until it got to where we're doing intervals. Then we'd split up, do our hardest work, and then regroup somewhere and come back home. So I just have a habit when I'm riding with people to actually ride with them and not ride away from them. It's okay if you're playing. That's why you see me always tilting my head and looking around, keeping my eye on other people that are in the group. You have to ride for the people you're riding with. So if you know the guy's on your left and you see the debris, don't ride him into the debris. Keep the debris on your right, because you know he's the following rider is on your left. Those are the little things I'm talking about. And that just makes people more comfortable, and they enjoy riding with you because they can relax knowing that you're that kind of rider that thinks about the others. So a lot of times if the debris is on the right and we have enough room, I don't even point it out. I know where the rider is, and I keep them on the clean part of the road by keeping the debris to the side they're not on. All those little things make a difference. You don't have to say anything. Experienced riders they see that. And then they can follow you comfortably knowing that you've got their six, so to speak. This is a descent. It's a nice climb the other way. It's very steep, so it's a pretty sharp descent. See, it says -3. It's probably more than that. Okay, I see it still says -3. I thought it was like a -5. Yeah, there you go. It went higher briefly, but it drops. I don't even pedal. But I've already shifted up a little bit, so right here, I'm not gonna spin out my gear. And I keep my cadence the same. As it starts to go up, I downshift a couple of cogs at a time to keep my tempo the same. We're turning left, I check right, make sure it's clear. I'll let them know it's clear, both sides. before I get to the intersection. Because you're in front, you're the eyes and ears. And if it weren't safe, I would let them know we have to stop. You're stopping not for you, but the people behind you, not just for you. We're almost at the lake here. This is the shortcut that takes us to the lake house. We have the right of way on this road. You're not required to stop. It stops on the other side of the other intersection right there. So we just turn. And that's the lake house. It's a gas station. Got a restroom and everything. Whenever they come out here, it's a good stop. It's about the middle of the ride. And then from here, we will end up going north into the forest after going across the lake.
Yes, indeed.
We arrive and they're playing American Pie.
American Pie.
Veloharmony.
Bye bye, it's American Pie. Took the Chevy to my levee in the river. Beautiful song.
Yeah, somebody.
So we head out after the break. We get on the highway FM 1097. We're headed west. This is the only way to get back across the lake unless you go back the way we came. This is not the main lake. These are just little lakes before we get to the main Lake Conroe crossing. I've got the camera. It is windy, as my wife says, as all get out. It's blowing from the left, the south. It is just, and it gets more intense as we hit the lake. Because of course, the water, the wind coming across the water for some reason, it always seems to be heavier. Waving a couple of cyclists across the way there. Hear that wind. I dubbed it a bit, but it was just blowing. And when we get on the lake, it was literally blowing us to the right. Whenever you have an issue and you ride a long ride, it really exacerbates the problem. So any issue you have as you ride longer, you need to deal with it. That means it's there. It's just that after a while, your body's tired of dealing with it. Road goes up here. All I do is apply more pressure. I don't need to shift. I don't need to move my body anywhere. I'm already sitting where I need to. That's the benefit of a fit. So I don't have to waste energy moving around. You're already where you need to be. You just push harder or shift down and spin, whatever works for you, whatever mood you're in, because it's going to vary depending on how you feel. In a bunch of kilometers, maybe 6 or 7 kilometers, I end up pushing Paul H in the back again because he wasn't downshifting and he was straining on an uphill, and he'd been pulling for a while, and I just moved up and put my hand in his back to get him over the steep pitch, just to keep the group together. I think sometimes he stays up there too long, but that's me. At the end of the ride, there was almost like, it didn't rain per se, but it was the threat of rain. We got sprinkled on a little bit, but nothing, organized. On Sunday, it actually rained at the end of our ride. Got a lot of rain in the areas. So somebody said car back when that car was going back, and it was like he yelled, but you noticed we didn't change anything we're doing. I mean, it's okay to get the warning, but there's not much else we could do. And so I just basically used my ears. As the car came by, the truck came by, I could tell, there's enough. They give you enough room. Even the one on the shoulder, a lot of the drivers out here give us enough room. But I think the sound of the vehicle coming by, that one guy was gunning it because he was carrying a trailer, probably startled whoever called out behind. And so he just tried to give us a warning. So what happens is, you see me pedal, stop. What I'm doing is, as I pedal, I'm getting sucked into Paul H. So I'm keeping a bit of a distance because I end up going a lot faster than I want to, and I don't want to come up on him too quickly. So I will pedal, stop, and let the wind slow me down. So if you notice where my hands are, I'm just resting on the bars. I don't want to use my brakes at all, because he's soft pedaling as well periodically. So you do whatever, you adjust your speed to maintain your position without having to brake. Listen to the wind. This is the lake. This is Lake Conroe. And Paul will film. I think he will spin the camera to the right and left to film the lake. And I noticed that Paul H in front of me is pushing like his largest gear, meaning the small cog, the smallest cog, like a 12 or 11, whatever he has, and its cadence is very low. So even though we're rolling and you do something like that, what happens is your legs can get tired. We still need to have a decent cadence, even if the speed is steady. And I mean 70, 75 or higher, like that. The low cadences just tighten up your legs. The wind is on here, and this is a long bridge. It might be about 5 kilometers long, I think. So needless to say, I edited for time. We crossed the lake. It took a while. I kept the content the same, just kind of moved things along. Doug sits up there for a while, and then in a few kilometers he pulls off and lets Paul H take over. You can see the buildings in the distance as we approach the other side of the lake. It's the longest bridge in this area. There's Doug pulling off, and Paul H takes over. Get on the other side. I edited all the dead spots out of there to kind of get us across the bridge, because it took us a while to get through with that wind. Since the wind's blowing from the left, I'm a little to the right of Paul H. Road goes up slightly here. My cadence, I kept my cadence 80 plus, 80 to 90 something. That's about what felt good. With the kind of resistance the wind was giving and so forth. Just keeps your rhythm consistent. We're 2 hours into a 6-hour ride for Paul and I. The rest of the guys don't go 6 hours. They might do 3.5 or 4. I just used the hill to slow down. I didn't even use my brakes. The hill and the wind will slow you down enough. This light is short. In fact, green's up. Paul H had taken over about maybe with a third of the way left to get across the bridge. Doug Shot had pulled probably 3/4 of the way across the bridge. Paul H likes to sit up here to get his workout. Plus he has his TT bars. I don't think he's using them right now. He's got clip-ons on there. But since I've ridden with him enough to know that he likes to take long pulls, I sit there and I watch. And when he's having challenges, then I help him out like I did on the bridge. And in a few kilometers, I help him across, get over another steep pitch. Paul H does not like to exceed a certain wattage on certain rides, so he's got his own little limits set in to where if he sees, I guess, I don't know what the amount of watts is, maybe 450, 500, then he backs off. He told me that once. I don't remember the actual amount. So everybody's got their own workout per se. Talk about that all the time. So I don't like to pull through or pull to the front until he's ready. But on this ride, he sat up here too long, and after I helped him a short while later, I went ahead and just pulled around. I told him, let me give you a break up here as I went by. This entire stretch of 1097, once you get over the lake, it's up and down. It's a nice, challenging road. Doesn't have the widest shoulder, but it's got a shoulder. And it's relatively clean most of the time. So it's a good road to ride on. Paul and I did it a couple of winters ago when we rode to New Waverly. We had a 7.5-hour day. We came back across the lake. It was cold, and that lake, there's always wind on the lake. Everybody rides to a different rhythm. If you look at my cadence versus Paul H's cadence, you can see my legs ticking over faster. That's fine. Find what works for you, what you're used to. I'm soft pedaling there to avoid being pulled up on. You have to manage that when you ride in a group. You should not have to be surprised. That's why you must be paying attention all the time when you have other cyclists around. Even more so than when you ride solo. Same thing when you drive your car in heavy traffic. You got to pay attention at that time. Less so when you're cruising on the highway on rural roads, because the density of the traffic is less. Check the traffic because we're going slightly downhill here and it picks up quicker. Look, it's at -5, -4. I mean, all of a sudden when we're going the other way, that's how the hill bites your legs. It's quick. It's like a sharp descent, then it levels off quickly again. It's going to start going up soon and it gets pretty steep. And it's one of those that you can't really tell visually. You feel it. So right here starts to kick in. And when I'm riding, I'm always paying attention to other riders. It's not just about me. And I'm watching Paul H, and he's not downshifting. I put my hand on the bar, and I look back for traffic. Then I ride up to give him my hand. And that's the steepest pitch. We're over it. It's about 3.5, 4%. Now it levels off. You got to be in condition to do that because I'm climbing and I'm doing that. That's not easy. But I do that because he wants to be up there. He wants to get a workout. That's what encourages people to ride with this group or with that group. You let them do what they want to do because it's fun for everybody. But that way he got over the bump and we just kept the group, the rhythm moving along. But I thought he stayed up there too long. He probably should have pulled off. And I'm just kind of waiting to see what he wants to do. And you need to realize not every cyclist is thinking about the group per se. People just ride. Some people just ride. They're not thinking about that. I mean, even with the WCC guys, there are some members of the group that's trying to grow the group. Some members just come to get a workout. And so it's a different purpose. I mean, I have a different mindset at this point because it's just about going out, the camaraderie of riding with other riders while you get a workout. I'm not out here to drop anybody. Been there, done that, been dropped other people. It's no big deal. So I let Paul know I'm going to go around him because he looks like he's struggling a bit. So I tell him as I go by, I tell him I'm going to give you a break. I spoke to him as I went by just to let him know, let us relieve you a little bit. This way he can sit in. I did not increase the effort. The speed is higher because the road is slightly downhill. It'll level off soon. But I kept the effort the same. By keeping it steady, he'll be able to get in the draft, catch his breath. So there's nothing wrong with groups where people are attacking or whatever, and that's why the WCC Saturday ride, they advertise that it's a ride for road cycling competition, and the pace will vary based on the time of year and who shows up. So when you go to a ride, know the purpose of the ride, so you set the right expectations. And then the WCC has a Sunday ride that is more of a social ride. And when it's big enough, they have multiple speed groups. So on Sunday, more frowns on people who are just hammering per se, because the Sunday ride is to encourage other cyclists to come out. I don't know they're turning here, so I go straight, and someone says right turn. So I didn't use that lane, so I just turned here. They're going through the forest. No one had told us. I was not aware. So I just turned. They turned over there. And in a short while, I just resumed what I was doing. And I welcomed it because it's perfect, because we're trying to get more kilometers in. This way we don't have to do any loops when we get back. What I'm telling Paul is, no one told us that we're going through it. I didn't know. It didn't matter. We always call car up, even though they're on the other side of the road, so that other cyclists don't get careless. There's a tendency when you're in a group, people tend to take some chances sometimes, because they feel safer because there are a lot of cyclists together. So we want to make sure everybody's alert. So I'll pull through and go back to the front. Didn't really tell anybody on this ride, but my left cleat on that shoe seemed to be a little loose, and I think it moved out of position somewhat, but my left knee at about I think around here, it started twinging just a tad. I don't like to feel any pain like that when I ride, or discomfort, because it shouldn't be, because I'm real picky. And so I mentioned that to Paul, but I sorted it when I got home. The cleat bolt was a little loose. I don't tie them down too much. I tie them down together to where I don't tie one bolt too tight before I go to the other. I go around. This is plastic, and that to keep it in the same position, because if you don't and you tie it down too much, you can strip the threads in your shoe, and then sometimes it will cause the cleat to move if you tie one bolt down before the other ones are tight. At this point, I'm not having any ill effects, but when they move like that, I'm very sensitive to it, because I've got my position dialed in to the millimeter. Anything that moves out of place, I can feel it. I stand and I sit because it just felt good. I didn't want the speed to drop. Every time the speed would drop, I would stand. You have to practice that. You should be able to stand and sit like I did. You didn't see me give any warning to the group. There was a guy named Tim Vibrock. He's on Strava on Sunday. Before he would stand, he put his finger up in the air like you're in class asking for permission. And so when we got to the store, I pulled him aside and I told him, I said, hey man, you don't need to do that. Just stand on a downstroke and make sure your bike does not slide backwards. I said, you're good. I said, you're taking too much energy to do that. Because he put his hand up, then wait a little bit, and then stand. I'm like, please. I've seen Michael do the same thing. You don't need to alert other people that you're standing. I've actually heard a rider yell, standing, and then stands. That's ridiculous. Just learn to stand without the bike sliding back. Yeah, that guy kind of, I don't know what his rush was. He kind of came around, made the other guy stopped. So his timing, he passed at the wrong time. Because the other driver had to stop. Somebody had said car back, so of course I stayed to the right. He didn't have the use of the opposite lane when he took it. I don't know why they rushed. There's nowhere in this area that you're rushing to. There's nothing out here. You're rushing to catch a TV program maybe? I don't know. Hopefully it wasn't an emergency, but it wasn't that dangerous, but I just wanted to point that out that a lot of drivers do that. They're just too impatient. This forest, this direction is not the hardest direction. We're headed north. When you're headed south, I think it's harder. But as soon as you get in the forest, we're climbing this whole stretch. And all I'm doing is I'm keeping the effort close to what we're doing as opposed to worrying about the speeds. The speeds are not going to be high. It's the effort that matters. And if you notice, I'm keeping my rhythm about the same. I shift a lot. If I owned electronic shifting, I'd probably be changing the batteries every couple of months. But Mo says with his, he goes every 3 months, he changes the batteries. Because he shifts a lot. The more you shift, the more frequently you have to charge the battery, not change the battery. Because I think they'll go several months before you need to charge it. And it varies with how much you use it. I don't shy when it comes to shifting. That's why we have a derailleur. I use it. We're going downhill here, so I get into drops. You notice I went from the drops to the top, my torso did not change. The bike should be set up for your body. This is why we come through the forest. It doesn't have the smoothest pavement on this Mount Pleasant Road, but there's not a whole lot of traffic. You might get 2 or 3 cars the whole time you're on here. The road goes up here, so I stand just to keep the same gear rolling. You should be able to stand and sit like that without. So I tell Paul, let's rotate, keep it spinning, and he coming around. At that point, I realized that Paul H was off the back. He pulled for a long time on 1097. And for me, I err on the side, I always want to drop the pace as opposed to stopping and waiting for a rider that's trying to hang on. That just makes more sense to me. Now, keep in mind that not everybody's aware that Paul H is off the back. Because a lot of people are just riding and doing their thing, and if they're feeling good, they want to go hard and yada, yada, yada. So I keep my eye on Paul H. Paulie Lunga is here pulling at this point. I think Max is going to come around soon. Right there. Max comes around, and then Michael left a gap. So even though I had been pulling, I went ahead and rode up on Max's wheel just to take the gap. At this point, I noticed that Brian here, the guy with the sky and that CDL jersey, this is the first time he's ridden with us. But I noticed he's struggling because he's been trying to close gaps that he's creating. The gaps are opening because he's struggling. So as we go, you'll see here, watch, look. Everybody's just chilling. He bent his body. He's working hard just to get on Doug's wheel there. You'll see it again. That's how you know a rider's falling off. If I were behind him, I would let him know, okay, you're gonna have to stay closer, because what's happening is he's having trouble staying on Doug's wheel, and then he uses extra energy to get back to the gap that's opening. Watch. There's a gap right here. I don't know what he's doing. He's messing. He's got his phone on the stem. Look at the gap. This kills you. That's a lot of energy to get up there. So look, he closed the gap that he opened by messing with his phone. He's got his phone on his stem. I'm not comfortable riding with my phone on my stem. I put that sucker up. I guess he's using an app or something. But now, that took a lot of energy, and he's gonna have to pay for that. So it's off camera, but in like the third hour or so, I had to babysit him, and then I think I explained in the route. Because he said he hadn't ridden this long, and I guess at that pace. But it was like he was wasting a lot of energy, and I think it was a combination of the endurance needed to ride this long. You know, and the roads in the forest are unforgiving. When you're tired, bumpy roads are not your friend, and the roads are not the smoothest necessarily. They haven't invested, and I guess that's why it's quiet through here. There's certain stretches they've repaired. It's not terrible, and we're riding at a good pace here. Max is pushing. I'm still aware that Paul H is back there, and after a little while, we end up telling Max, look, we need to. I said, look, the pavement's kind of bad out here. I'm going to back off. I'm going to wait for Paul H. And I don't think he heard me because he kept going. I just rolled through over there. I just rolled through.
Car went straight.
There was a car back there, and we're waiting to see if it's going to come around. But then Paulie Longa said the car went straight at the intersection where we turned left. And I just stay on Max's wheel. I'm aware that Paul H is off the back, and that he's not too far away. But I end up telling Max in a little while, hey, we need to back off because we got people gapped, and then the road's kind of bumpy. And he does not, I guess he didn't hear me. This is after we're riding, and I just kind of mentioned to him because I'm the closest to him. And then after a while, I just pulled out of the line. And they had mentioned, that part is not on here because there was like a bunch of, I just edited it out because Paulie Longa had the camera on, and they were waiting because what's his name, Doug said, oh, Elder's off the back. Doug didn't know why. When I called back up, I told him keep going, and then I told Doug why because he didn't know. When you're riding, not everybody's going to be looking out for you in the group. Most of the experienced riders will, but keep that in mind as you ride. If you have a flat or whatever and you're at the back, alert someone that you had a flat, because the people at the front may not hear you. Okay, so I wanted to point that out so you're aware. So even though I tell Max that we need to temper the pace down to let Paul H get back, because I'd much rather do that than to go sit at the intersection. That's what they do. Stop at the intersection and wait. So he does not do that. I'm not sure if it's on film where I pulled out. I think I did because I think Paulie Longa comes around me after I pulled. Paulie Longa does not know what I'm doing because he's one of the ones that wanted to turn back to come get me. I got tired of telling Max to back off the pace, so I just pulled out of the line. Right there. So I pulled out so I could wait for Paul H and possibly pull him back. But the thing is, when he catches up to me, he just goes around me. I'm like, if you had that much energy, why did you even fall off the pace? But I just wanted to point out that I prefer to do that, slow the pace, as opposed to standing at an intersection and wait for somebody that's been gapped. So I hope you all got a chance to get some K's in, but this is what we did on Saturday. Keep those doctors fired.